So uh, let's start with what you're doing right now, which is the Citizen Warrior Foundation. My first question is like, why a foundation? What is the purpose of it, and what are you trying to achieve? And can you just let us know the story behind how you thought about it? What was the motivation behind creating this foundation? Can you talk about all of these aspects? Yeah.
Well, the motivation was okay. So the motivation, I had a nonprofit from the year prior, and we were trying to figure out what the best way to deploy it into emergent tech that would, let's say, secure investors with like a 10-year horizon, 20-year horizon, right? And we just didn't find that niche yet, right? We didn't find that opportunity. Then, lo and behold, there's this huge market drawdown in end of November 21. Huge market drawdown. There was another market drawdown in September. There was a Series B that was raised in Celsius Network in between those drawdowns. And then moving into June, there was a restriction of Celsius Network deposits. So at that point, because of what had happened during the introduction with TradFi, I had lost, a lot of faith. I didn't want to go in the equities market. I wasn't going to buy bonds. I mean, treasuries, like these guys buying bonds and treasuries, it's ridiculous. It's negative interest rates. I mean, anyway, like negative real rates. But so I was, okay, yeah, that's where about 4/5 of my wealth was. And I was like, okay, these bastards just restricted my deposit. I understood the restriction move. That was fine because they didn't want to go become insolvent, right? They wanted to prevent another bank run. There was a massive outflow. But then we're like, okay, they're going to move into Chapter 11. So they're trying to restructure, right? They're trying to figure out what to do in between the point of restriction and then filing for something. And then they go into Chapter 11. With Chapter 11, it protects the shareholders and it gives them time. It's not like for you, the customer. Duh. Okay? It's for the shareholders with the vested interest in the company, facing insolvency to restructure ostensibly to get the company out of Chapter 11 and safeguard their investment. Well, that's not necessarily what was happening, but that was the point when they took 4/5 of my crap. When I said, you are taking, because I know from my side, I worked my balls off for that, right? My entire life. I worked my balls off my entire life. And I saved and I made prudent, decisions. I was never wasteful, so on and so. The one thing I wasted on was the penthouse and the thing. That was a waste. Everything else, no waste. Very little waste. Some waste, but very little. Point is, there's no more waste. There's no more waste because it took a lot of crap. So we're like, all right, we're taking it. Citizen Warrior Foundation. What we're going to do is 3 things. So we applied to the IRS, waiting for our exemption, 501c3 pending. One is to educate the public on how effed up parts of the crypto sphere is, emergent tech is, where the dangers are, and also where the value is, which is important. That's why we have a separate brother affiliate with another entity that essentially talks to the innovators, the real pioneers, the high integrity individuals, the ones who want to raise all boats, if you will, right? The people in it for the right reasons. There's so much crap in the space. So one of us is educate people on the crap, on the villains, on the literal criminals within the space. Because it's the crypto sphere as a small portion of emergent tech has done the worst job of any niche that's begging for mass adoption. Just like the most limp-wristed is all these influencers and this and that. Like they find their niche and then they own their niche to get like 100,000 followers and then they do nothing, right? It's like do something or shut up. Because honestly, you're just making noise and you're talking about which JPEG you're going to buy and how that's going to be worth $1 jillion, during the next market run. I'm like, no, your JPEG is nonsense. You're nonsense. Just get out of here, right? Having been someone who had to deal with a stringent regulatory nature, I know the burden of the government fiat. It's super costly and it destroys a small business and a small to medium-sized business, right? So that's a problem. We are begging to be policed. We are begging for the authoritarian boot on our neck. We are begging for our investments to go to zero because we refuse to say, this guy's doing it right, this guy's doing it wrong, because here are the standards. Now, it's not a centralized figure. I can't enforce this by fiat. But my goodness, before you make an investment, why don't you say, okay, do they know what quality control is? Do they have ISO in place? What have they done in the past? Did they deliver? Who are their advisors? If it's a DAO, are they completely anonymous? Are they in any way accountable? If the answer to all that is no, probably don't play a speculative game. because you're probably going to get taken, right? And it's all insider stuff on TG. Everyone who knows how to watch the numbers a little bit better than the average guy are just screwing them out of their money. And that pisses us off, right? So it's just like Celsius Network screwed everybody, and Mashinsky, the principal shareholder, allegedly stole a whole bunch of stuff and allegedly engaged in a whole bunch of criminal activity that we're investigating through our crowdsource page, which you can find at Stop the Sell Off, by the way, at CWF. We want to return back people's crap to them as soon as possible, as much of their crap to them as possible in the form of ETH, Bitcoin, and USDC to avoid all the regulatory nonsense in as timely way as possible, and reconcile between all the special interest groups who are fighting amongst themselves, because no one knows how to get along. And like crypto Twitter is the modern day virtual hell for getting things done. So if you want to get things done, stay away from crypto Twitter and go anywhere else, and you have a better chance of getting it done. Long story short is we're going to try to help broker that out. The 3 exempt purposes: education, community organization, relationship building, and research and development into goods and services to mitigate meaningless suffering through supporting emergent technologies. So that's like, the big thing. Some examples would be consumer protection protocols, for example, a standardizing association, right, that's received some form of recognition and it's voluntarily adopted. So let's say if it's a CFI company that, oh my God, is allowed to be incorporated back into the States, or just incorporated in the States from scratch, then they're putting their financials on, and people can, let's say, receive signals if it's over leveraged, if things are moving off chain that shouldn't. I mean, transparency, right? That even if it's CFI in digital assets, that it still lives up to the blockchain ethos that started all this, which is decentralization and democratization by the people for the people. That's it. No more of these vultures.